accusing them of putting politics over policy.
This is all about trying to make sure that Donald Trump does not secure the border.
This is about the Democrats not wanting the president to actually follow through on his commitment to secure that southern border.
We are live in Washington with that. An early dismissal. Mad Dog Mattis out the door earlier than planned.
Who is now taking over for the Secretary of Defense as brand new marching orders are given overnight, pulling all troops out of Syria. Also, a hero's welcome home just in time for the holidays.
Fox and Friends First continues right now.
Jingle bell, jingle bell rock.
The partial government shutdown is a bit of a Christmas gift expected to stretch into the new year. Republicans slamming Democrats, claiming that they are refusing to compromise on border security.
Jillian Turner is live in Washington with a reaction from both sides of the aisle. Merry Christmas, Jillian.
Merry Christmas to both of you guys. So Capitol Hill's been buzzing all weekend long despite this government shutdown. The president tweeting late last night from the White House. The most important way to stop gangs, drugs, human trafficking, and massive crime is at our southern border. We need border security, and as everyone knows, you can't have border security without a wall. The drones and technology are just bells and whistles. Safety for America. Now, we know from Chuck Schumer's meeting with Vice President Pence Saturday that the president made a counteroffer somewhere between $1.3 billion. That's the number Dems had considered earlier, and $5 billion, the number that he wants. Sources did get specific with Fox News yesterday. They say the White House lowered their demands to $2.1 billion for the wall plus $400 million for other security measures. Schumer's office, though, rejecting that proposal and issuing a terse statement. The vice president came in for a discussion and made an offer. Unfortunately, we're still very far apart. Some senators from the president's own party put the blame squarely with him.
Now the government is shut down over what ultimately is going to be $2 billion. This is a made-up fight so the president can look like he's fighting.
But Republicans question whether any number on the wall would satisfy Democrats right now. They believe Nancy Pelosi is secretly calling the shots on this issue and say there's little incentive for her to get to a resolution before she takes her seat as the new Speaker of the House come January. So the outlook remaining grim for the federal government.
I don't think things are going to move very quickly here for the next couple of days. It's very possible that this shutdown will go beyond the 28th and into the new Congress.
Congress returns Thursday, but there's increasing skepticism here that they'll actually make any headway on this issue. Everyone in Washington believes the likelier scenario is that the shutdown continues well into the new year and the new Congress. Jillian and Rob?
Yeah, we'll see. Jillian, thanks so much. Merry Christmas.
You got it. Merry Christmas, guys.
And new overnight Defense Secretary James Mattis signing the order to pull all troops out of Syria.
This as he learns that he is being put.
February, Mattis resigned, as you recall, after the president announced plans to withdraw those 2,000 troops from Syria. Incoming acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney defending the move.
We recognize this fact is unpopular within the Defense Department. It's very popular with ordinary American people.
Do they really know what the stakes are of pulling U.S. troops out?
They elect the president so that he does, and he has the complete understanding of what you've just laid out, and the decision is his.
President Trump reassuring Americans on Twitter over the move, writing, President Erdogan of Turkey has very strongly informed me that he will eradicate whatever is left of ISIS in Syria, and he is a man who can do it. Plus, Turkey is right next door. Our troops are coming home. Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin slamming the president, though, for working with Turkey.
After a conversation, he'll make snap judgments and avoid the best advice that he could from people like General Mattis. That, to me, is a height of irresponsibility. There are thousands of Kurds who are risking their lives to help us defeat ISIS, who are now in jeopardy because of this impulsive decision by Donald Trump.
Meantime, President Trump announcing Patrick Shanahan will become the acting defense secretary on January 1. Shanahan was confirmed as deputy defense secretary in July 2017. Before that, he spent more than 3 decades working at Boeing. Guys, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
No problem.
All right, Americans have spent billions of dollars in many years fighting terrorism in the Middle East.
Kentucky Senator Rand Paul says the president couldn't be more right. It's time to pull the U.S. out of Syria.
The president promised when we went into Syria, our goal was to wipe out ISIS. We took 99% of the land. They're on the run. Can the people who live there not do anything? We spent trillions of dollars arming the entire Middle East, arming Afghan army. Can they not do anything? Do we have to do everything? But my question is, why?
With you. Developing now, London police find a damaged drone right next to Gatwick Airport. Now, last week, you remember we told you about this. Britain's second busiest airport was shut down over drone sightings. The chaos disrupted more than 100,000 holiday travelers. Officials are now testing the damaged drone for forensic evidence. 2 people were arrested in the case on Friday, but have been released. The British Airport and Crime Stoppers are offering a £60,000 reward for information that leads to those responsible.
Adam Schiff warning that Democrats will subpoena the Russia probe report if the president tries to keep it a secret.
We do everything possible so that the public has the advantage of as much of the information as it can. But I do think that the special counsel ought to have the advantage of both the evidence that we've accumulated, but also the ability to prosecute those that have come before a committee and lied.
Now, the incoming chairman of the House Intelligence Committee also says he wants the interview transcripts of senior advisor Jared Kushner and the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. He says that will determine their involvement with the Russians during the 2016 campaign.
Market futures pointing to a green Christmas despite the partial government shutdown. The Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P 500 all looking up this morning. This after Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin called the CEOs of 6 major banks, reassuring them of the economy's strength, something incoming White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney agrees with.
The fundamentals of the economy are still great. Yes, the stock market is down. We both know it goes up and down. Unemployment is still at historic lows. Capital investment is still high. Business confidence is high. GDP is still solid. So the fundamentals are still good. Is it going to be a rocky road with a president who's willing to mix things up to change Washington to benefit folks back home? Yes.
Nick, thank you.
A market sell-off last week pushed the Dow to its worst drop in 10 years after the latest Fed interest rate hike.
Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is working from her hospital bed. She is recovering from surgery. Last week, doctors removed 2 malignant growths in her lung. They were found when she went to the hospital last month after she fell.
Of a partial government shutdown, and it's looking like no deal before the new year. Iraq War veteran Chris Nyweem says the GOP needs to stand firm on their promise to the American people. He joins us live next.
And he's got a lot of problems with you people. If you know that reference, you know it. Rand Paul airs his grievances for Festivus. And wait until you hear what he had to say about Lindsey Graham. Stay tuned.
Christmas.
Now entering day 3 and could possibly extend into the new year.
So as Democrats continue to resist the president's demand to secure the border, our next guest says the president says he should stand firm in his promise to the American people to protect our border. Joining us now is Republican strategist and Iraq War veteran Chris Nyweem. Thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning.
Are you surprised at how this has played out so far?
No, I think this is what I would predict. I mean, the president's been consistent about his campaign commitment, and when it comes to government deadlines, this is when policy and budgets really come into play. These are decisions have to be made. Otherwise, government, there starts to become interferences. So I predicted this would happen. I didn't predict that fun press conference in the Oval Office, but it's a new time, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yes.
You know, the latest word, I guess, from a Democratic strategist is that the White House has come down quite a bit off of $5 billion, and they've countered to the Democrats. The White House has offering $2.1 billion and then $400 million for the president to play with in somewhat of a slush fund. That's a pretty good counter, and that gets a lot closer to their number than they've gotten to his. What do you think happens now?
Well, I think they're trying to negotiate. I mean, Speaker-elect Pelosi said the president wouldn't have the votes in the House. That wasn't true. Obviously, they were able to get through that. And I think that they want to see some sort of action here. This is Congress's responsibility. If it wasn't for the president, we wouldn't be talking about illegal immigration, which has largely become a business in this country in many respects. And it is a security issue. So they're going to have to negotiate. And there needs to be more of a benefactor than just the D.C. bars that do the shutdown drink specials here in Washington.
Let's take a look at this tweet from President Trump. And it reads, quote, "The most important important way to stop gangs, drugs, human trafficking, and massive crime is at our southern border. We need border security, and as everyone knows, you can't have border security without a wall. The drones and technology are just bells and whistles. Safety for America. Chris, I mean, over the years, you've heard so many Democrats who are now fighting this say we need border security. That includes Chuck Schumer. I just don't understand the sudden change, the 180 that's been done here.
Well, I mean, I think the Trump train would pick up Chuck Schumer if it was the 2015 Chuck Schumer that wanted all the things that the White House is trying to work on now, not the one that's currently resisting this. I think, you know, one secret people don't really talk about is there are ways for the president to use certain executive funds to shift things around to try to do something. But frankly, it's Congress's job. I'd like to see Congress not get paid when these situations come up. But I think there is some leverage, and the president's trying to kind of work this through. And so, look, they need to come to an agreement, and it's just that simple. I mean, it's Congress's job.
Well, Chris, let's be fair here. I mean, obviously the Democrats have had kind of two positions on immigration. One has said that, you know, securing the border of any kind has been almost immoral. That's been the far left wing. And then the moderates, like Schumer and some of the others, are saying that they want border security, and they're willing to spend money on it. Maybe not $5 billion on a wall, but they will spend a couple billion, it looks like. What is it about? I mean, you know, we've spent so much money trying to secure that border for so many years, yet they say that a wall doesn't work. What is it that they think will work?
Well, right now they're just playing silly kids games. I mean, look, Speaker Speaker-elect Pelosi, Leader Pelosi, essentially said there are equities to be weighed. Whose equities? The American people or all of these foreign constituencies? And remember this, there's Republicans buried in the administration that don't support the president, and Obama appointees that frankly are causing problems and don't want to actually support the president's agenda. He's up against that too. So that's why it's key to continue to implement his agenda when it comes to, for example, veteran entrepreneurs that aren't being paid over at the VA. Those are Obama holdovers that are creating those issues. So the president just needs to stick firm and just continue to negotiate. And the Democrats have the votes. They need to make it happen. It's just that simple.
Chris Nywim, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you guys.
Merry Christmas. It is 18 minutes after the hour. The terror investigation into the murder of tourists in Morocco is ramping up. The brand new arrests that were made overnight.
Yeah, that's a very jarring story there. And with all the rush to wrap the gifts and to see the family, it's easy to get lost in the commotion that surrounds Christmas. Father Jonathan Morris joins us next with a reminder of the true meaning of the holiday. We're going to have that coming up. Good morning. Governor using state funds to keep the monument open along with Ellis Island. It costs about $65,000 a day to operate. An average of 10,000 people every single day visit the Statue of Liberty. Isn't that amazing? It's a big number. Ousted FBI Director James Comey taking shots at the president again, this time over the partial government shutdown. Comey tweeting, quote, FBI families will spend Christmas without a paycheck. This president promised Mexico would pay for the wall, but innocent people are now paying the price of another lie. Our thoughts are with hardworking public servants and their families. Government employees will be paid for any work during the shutdown, of course, after it ends, though. Jillian, over to you.
The true meaning of Christmas can easily get lost in the chaotic holiday shopping and plans and gift wrapping and everything you have going on with friends and family. Joining me to discuss the reason for the season is Fox News religion contributor, Father Jonathan Morris. Thank you for being here. Merry Christmas to you. So what do you say? I just feel like nowadays everyone's so stressed out this time of year.
It's true. It's true, no doubt. And sometimes it's very easy for us to forget what the meaning is. Sometimes just because we recognize we live in a diverse society, not everybody's celebrating what Christians are celebrating on this day. And they were terrified. But the angel said to them, and here it is, do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a very specific place, Bethlehem, right? A Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby, how amazing is that, wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger. That is what Christians believe is God made man, Emmanuel, God with us. And it's just very, very concrete. We are celebrating that God came to give us a chance at new life because we're all fallen, we're all sinners, and God says, I want to reconcile with you.
So hearing those words, I think it's important for people, not just on Christmas, but, you know, oftentimes throughout life. There are other things that people can do, though, besides read the Bible, that you say people can do as a family together, with their family, with their friends.
Let me tell you what my family did, what my mom and dad did. I'm 3 of 7. I'm the 3rd of 7. Okay, that's
Large
a
family.
lot, and so it's chaos at Christmas, right? They did some very simple things that I will never, ever forget. One is Christmas morning. We're all waiting on the top of the stairs, right? I'm from the Midwest.
Kids want to come down and see what Santa got them.
We weren't allowed to come down, and so my dad gave the word. We would come running down, and we're all looking at underneath the tree, but my mom and dad would walk us over to the creche, to the nativity scene. And I'll never forget, my dad would always kneel down in front of the baby Jesus and would lead us in a very simple prayer. I don't remember exactly what he would say.
But you remember what you did.
Exactly, what he did. That's number one. Give meaning in that way or in some other way. Secondly, I would say limit the number of presents because it's constant. And tell your kids ahead of time how many they're going to get. We always knew we were going to get 3.
Why 3?
Well, the way my parents described it, they were probably just saying because they didn't want to buy 4 or 5, but they said gold, frankincense, and myrrh were the gifts that were given by the wise men to baby Jesus. And so we said, oh, there's a reason. There's only 3. That's perfect. And we were wondering what those 3 would be instead of, I hope I get 26. I might only get 17.
Or my pile's bigger or smaller than my sister's or whatever.
Absolutely. The other thing that they used to always do that I would recommend is at family celebration times like Christmas dinner, there would always be somebody there that, quote, didn't fit.
Right.
They would invite somebody who they knew was very needy, whether because they were very lonely, whether because they were very hungry.
Someone who needs it,
Somebody who didn't quite fit in what normally people would say should be the people at the table. A very practical thing, but I'll never forget it. People like smoking at the Christmas table. We're going, you shouldn't be doing this, but that's who they were.
Absolutely. Father John, thank you very much. Thank you for your tips and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you, Jillian.
It is 27 minutes after the hour. Day 3 of a partial shutdown, and Democrats now calling on President Trump to give up the border wall.
If you want to open the government, you must abandon the wall.
So what is it going to take to get a deal? We debate that coming up next. And Christmas crunch, if you haven't finished shopping by now, you've got your work cut out for you. But there are some stores open today. We'll tell you where. 9 new arrests in connection to the terror murders of 2 tourists in Morocco. That brings the total number of arrests to 13. 2 Scandinavian women were beheaded in what is being called an act of terror. The first 4 suspects arrested in the case reportedly pledged allegiance to ISIS. In this latest round of arrests, authorities say they foiled another terror plot after finding rifles and bomb-making materials in the raids. A car barrels into a church during Sunday services. Over 100 people were inside at the time. 6 people were hurt. The Ohio church showing resilience, planning to hold its Christmas Eve service tonight. Police have not identified the driver or said what caused them to drive into that church. A man appearing to be straight out of The Walking Dead tries to break into a South Carolina home. This is a rapper of standing up for racists. The liberal commentator slamming Travis Scott for simply agreeing to perform during the NFL's Super Bowl halftime show. Sharpton telling TMZ, quote, I think anyone that goes into the halftime show is in effect directly violating those that want to raise the question that the NFL should come to terms with what they have done and continue to do to Colin Kaepernick and those that protest on criminal justice issues. Jay-Z has also called on Travis Scott to back out of the performance. Rob.
Jillian, thanks. President Trump working to hammer out a deal with lawmakers as the government remains partially shut down. Democrats, though, showing not much sign of budging on stopping the border wall.
It will never pass the Senate. Not today, not next week, not next year. So, Mr. President, President Trump, if you want to open the government, you must abandon the wall. Plain and simple.
All right, so what will it take to strike a deal here? Here to weigh in on that, GOP strategist Liz Copeland and Democratic political commentator Jonathan Harris. Guys, thanks for coming on this morning. Jonathan, I want to start with you. It looks like the White House has come down quite a bit. It looks like they're offering around 2.5 instead of 5 for fencing and some security. Is that going to play for Chuck Schumer?
I hope it doesn't. According to Chuck Schumer, it won't play. He said Trump is not getting a wall, and I hope if the Democrats can stick to that, then no, hopefully it won't. They already received billions of dollars in the 2016-2017 budget for border upgrades. They don't need this. This is about a campaign promise. It's not about border security.
Yeah. Liz, you know, the Democrats say that they don't want the wall. The wall does not work, but they're willing to spend money on border security. What is it that they want to try to secure the border that hasn't been tried before?
I'm not quite sure. I don't know if anyone knows what's going on. I think most of this for the Democrats is just theatrics. You can think about in the past 40 years, Congress has only been able to pass the federal appropriations bill on time in 4 instances. And so when they didn't do that, essential government services continued on. Here we have Democrats once again willing to shut down our government all in the name of illegal immigration. It doesn't make any sense, especially when you consider the people they're really hurting, furloughed government employees, statistically, more often than not, are Democrats. They're not Republicans.
Yeah. Jonathan, I want to ask you this. You know, there's a lot of numbers thrown around about the cost of illegal immigration in this country. The president puts a number at like $200 million a year, or I'm sorry, $200 billion a year. A lot of people say that's grossly inflated, but even modest estimates are in the billions. The Democrats right now are really angry over spending $5 billion, but they ignore the billions that illegal immigration costs this country. Is it fairly obvious to you that this is just about not having a wall and not letting the president win here?
Well, again, like I said, in the 2016-17 budget, they were given billions of dollars. I think they've spent, about 6% of it to upgrade the security at the border. So, again, I don't think his concern is about security. I think it's about going back to all these rural parts of the country and going, look, see, I told you I was going to get the wall. Look, I'm so strong, I can negotiate. But instead, he's not wanting to upgrade the fencing that we already have and some of the existing security measures we already have. So to me, it's far more about that than anything else. And the idea of blaming the shutdown on the Democrats when Trump clearly said earlier this month that he would be proud to shut down the government and would take full responsibility for it is absurd.
Yeah. Liz, same question to you. Do you think that do the Democrats really care this much about $5 billion, or is this about making a political point?
I think it's about making a political point. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong. We should want candidates who uphold their campaign pledges once they're in office. That's what President Trump said he was going to do. That's what he's going to do. So as far as I'm concerned, when the Democrats say that this isn't a good use of taxpayers' time or money, I think that's absurd. Having strong borders is very important. And there are 11 million illegal immigrants in this country right now. The most important thing that we can focus on is securing our southern border.
Liz, right back to you real quick. Do you think a deal gets done, and what do you think it looks like?
Well, incoming acting chief of staff said that we could expect for this to carry on well in 2019. I'm thinking somewhere between the 3rd or the 4th week of January, we should see a break. But I think the president is going to hold strong and commit to making sure that we get funding for the border.
Okay. And Jonathan, to you, last word.
I hope they don't. I hope the Democrats stay firm on this, and I hope that Trump is forced to back down on this. There's quite a bit of things we could do in this country with $5 billion from education to infrastructure. It's not about a border wall. This is about him trying to keep a promise to his voters that should have never been made to begin with.
Okay. There you have it, both sides. Thank you guys very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And coming up, chaos for the Christmas travel rush. Snow and rain headed north, expected to make your commute a little bit messy. We're tracking what you need to know as you head home for the holidays.
And you've heard a lot of really great ones come out of Maxine Waters just this year.
You get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And with this kind of inspiration, go and take Trump out tonight.
Always a fan favorite, and she's at it again. Wait till you hear what she just said about the president. Stay tuned.
So the Northwest now bracing for a winter mess as a major winter storm moves in. Parts of the region already covered with snow, and lots of people expected to see more today.
We love that, though. It's the white Christmas.
I'd rather snow than rain.
Yeah, exactly. And even more rain and snow coming to the region through Wednesday, dumping as much as a foot of snow in some of those areas. The Northwest getting hit pretty hard. Adam Klotz is tracking what you need to know. We're not complaining about
No, we're not complaining. What's with the face, Adam?
You wanted a little bit of snow for us.
Yeah, we want snow.
That's not happening here here in New York City, and really anyone along the coastal areas here in the Northeast, they're not going to see snow. There are a couple of spots where we're tracking just a system that's moving through the area. This one, not real big, but you're looking at light snow inland New York that's going to be running up into New England. But the larger system you were talking about that is out west, just rounds and rounds of low pressure systems have been running into the Pacific Northwest. So from Northern California, stretching up through Oregon and eventually towards Washington. All of this initially rain when it hits the coast. So if you're living right along the coast, that's just heavy downpours. But you hit those higher elevations and it has been snow. And these are winter weather warnings now stretching across this region. That's going to continue. Here's what that looks like as we've got watches, warnings, advisories. There is going to be some standing snow out west for folks on Christmas morning. So at least Santa has some places for that sleigh to land. Otherwise, we're looking at rain and clear conditions across the middle of the country. So if there's any good news with all these clear conditions and all the folks who aren't going to be giving snow, I like to give a little bit of a good news forecast here. If you're traveling, things are looking really good outside of just that area out west.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
so
good.
you can get home for Christmas.
Silver lining.
You still can't deliver us some snow, though, right?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Not this year. Adam, thanks.
Thanks.
All right, after spending several months in space, gravity can present quite a few challenges. Astronaut A.J. Fustel tweeting this video showing his struggle to walk in a straight line with his eyes closed. Look at this. Wow.
The video was taken right after he returned from the International Space Station. He was there for 197 days.
That would throw you off. Wow.
Yeah. And SpaceX makes its last launch of the year.
Ignition, liftoff.
It's a nice rocket. It is the company's final mission for 2018, but it's first focusing on national security. SpaceX launched a GPS satellite for the U.S. Air Force from Cape Canaveral. It'll boost navigation and signal for military and civilian GPS systems. So, hey, the little GPS on your phone.
Yeah. Very cool.
Stronger, too. Love that. All right, how do you deal with politics at the dinner table, especially right now? What about a kid who didn't get what they wanted for Christmas? Our etiquette expert breaks down the do's and don'ts of Christmas coming up next.
All right, sounds good. We're coming right back. Stay there.
For each Rob and Jillian are finally done. Straight ahead, Anthony Scaramucci is going to be here live. He's going to be talking about the president, what he plans on doing with almost his brand new staff in 2019. Mercedes Schlapp, how do they plan on handling the messaging coming out about this shutdown while the president stays here for Christmas? Dennis Prager on the big picture on fighting ISIS as well as extremism around the world, as well as him being suppressed on the internet. And this story, a 6-year-old wrote a letter to Santa with a very special request for his dad to come home from serving in the Army. And Santa came through big time. There you go. His dad surprised him at school. They both joined us live in studio today. Don't miss a minute of Fox and Friends, and don't miss the last 13 minutes of these two wonderful people.
Oh, you're wonderful, too.
When we're
story,
finally done.
I cannot wait to watch that. Isn't that
I'm just reading the prompter, Rob.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Brian, thanks.
Thank you. All right, so this next story is for all you Christmas procrastinators out there. If you still need to buy some gifts, there's some time. Several stores are open this Christmas Eve. The list includes Kohl's, Best Buy, Walmart, Macy's, Bass Pro Shops, all open until 6 tonight. Target staying open until 10.
There you go. Not so bad being a last-minuter. Senator Rand Paul airs his grievances, keeping the Seinfeld Festivus tradition alive.
A Festivus for the rest of us. You gather your family around and tell them all the ways they have disappointed you over the past year.
God, that was a great episode, wasn't it? The Republican from Kentucky tweeting, "My friend Lindsey Graham is a bit mad right now. You see, he's never seen a war end before. He's going to have to console himself with the fact that that we are still in about 8 more. I know it'll be hard for him, but I think he'll get by." He's just messing with Lindsey Graham. He then jokingly compared him to the evil Star Wars character Emperor Palpatine. He also had a good one about the U.S. spending $18 million on tourism in Egypt and other wasteful spending. Go to his Twitter account if you want to check it out.
All right. So Christmas is meant to be time to enjoy with family and friends.
That's right, but the season can sometimes bring tension and stress for many different reasons.
That's right. Joining us to discuss how to deal with Christmas do's and don'ts is etiquette expert Lisa Gratz. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Okay, so political conversations at the table. Lots of people are going to experience that. What do they do?
Right, the P word, it always comes up.
Yeah.
If it's your party, you better have a plan in place to keep the peace.
How do you do that, though?
Well, in our political climate, you have to, because it's going to come up. So when it comes up, it's okay. You just acknowledge the comments, but then you move on to topics that you want to talk about.
So as the host, it's really up to you to kind of get that conversation going in another direction.
And make it light. You know, like, what was your favorite Hallmark movie? Who had the best lights on in the neighborhood? Exactly. You know, how many times did you watch It's a Wonderful Life? And then you can get into the more serious, you know, thankful for our troops abroad, you know, friendship, family, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But you just move the conversation, acknowledge always, and then move on to approved topics. And have a list ready if you
Before
want.
it turns into a fist fight?
Absolutely. Always, always, always. Our family plans on talking about President Bush, 41, and the fact that he practiced the golden rule. I mean, he really lived it. And we think, God, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all plant those kinds of seeds of kindness, of civility and dignity and graciousness moving forward?
Absolutely.
All right, flipping the topic here for the relative that won't get off the phone, probably the teenage relative, I would assume.
It could be an adult. It could be anyone. But again, it's up to the host to set the rules for the party to make it a mobile-free day. And again, it's easy. You just say, even to your family and guests, we are going to, you know, disconnect during the table. And I repeat, the table, because it's unrealistic to think someone's not going to be on their phone all day, especially if you have, you know, an emergency personnel at your table or a member of Congress. They're going to need to be talking on their phone. But the rule is this: if it's not meant for the table, it doesn't belong there. So phone, keys, and hats, goodbye.
Okay.
You know, hello to the place setting and the feast that we're about to receive.
So what about dealing with kids who don't get what they want for Christmas? And that happens, and it's tough.
Oh, I know. Someone I know just told me they got coal when they were a child.
No.
Coal in the stocking.
Oh.
That was the only gift. But when it comes to kids, you have to acknowledge their disappointment, right? But do so in a gentle manner. We've all walked in their shoes and felt their disappointment, but it's really up to the parents to, you know, explain the meaning of Christmas, especially when they're little. And they don't always get everything that's on their wish list. So maybe next year. I mean, with teens, you can, you know, be a little more direct. You know, Mom and I are not ATMs, that kind of thing. Money doesn't grow on trees. But for the little ones, it's really, really important to do that.
I never got a pony.
You never got
I'm still waiting.
No, he's still very
75
upset.
years old. I think I'm going to get it this year, though. I'm looking forward to it. How about getting a gift that you don't get what you want, right? But you get gifts that you don't like.
We've all experienced that too. But be gracious when you get it. I mean, even if you're never going to use it, just practice if you have to. I mean, some people I know practice in front of a mirror saying things like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted a tea cozy, or that Christmas gnome is going to be so perfect on my tree.
Oh my gosh.
You know, and do it with a smile. So it's very gracious, and, you know, always follow it up with thank you. I loved your gift. And you can always re-gift or donate it after if you really don't care for it. But I prefer the latter, because personally I don't like to give gifts away that I don't like. Right. You know, so, I mean, you can re-gift as well, but if you re-gift, you should never do it within your same social circles,
absolutely.
in case you give it back to the person who gave it to you.
Unwritten rule.
Bad.
Lisa Gratz, thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
It is 53 minutes after the hour. You've heard quite a few outrageous comments from Maxine Waters just this year.
You get out and you create a crowd.